Nick Bayer is an artist in Oklahoma City. He worked on Sugar High, creating these great big ant sculptures and a giant mushroom, and he's working on the laboratory space for Itinerant, for our spaceship. Nick asked me to help him with a project he's doing for Gathering Place, which is a great, big, cool, incredible park over in Tulsa. He needed a backdrop that was 10 feet wide and 10 feet tall, and this is what I came up with. This is made out of Baltic birch plywood. It's pretty stable as it is, but we'll put some weights on the back. And the result, I think, is kind of gorgeous. I love how the shape looks a little unreal and like it shouldn't stand, but it's really, really stable. Here's how we made it.
I laid out this structure in VCarve. I built one of these uppers once and then basically copied and pasted it. Baltic birch comes in either 4x8 or 5x5 sheets, at least here in Midwest. And so to fit a 10-foot tall structure out of a 5x5 sheet, which is what I can get a hold of, I had to break each of these uppers and each of the horizontals into 3 chunks, and then piece them together using this kind of puzzle piece joinery. I've done this before. We used this on the front of the spaceship. The only problem this time is I used an end mill that was supposed to be 0.25 inches, but was only 0.246. I think it had some wear. Consequently, the joints required a fair amount of screwing around with them to get them to work right. And that made this whole process take a lot longer than it needed to. Also, sanding. Good grief, so much sanding. Getting the belt sander clamped to the side of this little table I made just to put this project together was a lifesaver. This little table is just some scrap. I needed something long and flat for all these pieces, and we'll probably take it apart here pretty quick now that we're done with the project. When the joinery does fit well, it really is just a matter of putting some glue on it and pounding it together. Everything dries, and it's basically as strong as if it was one long piece. Despite the error with the end mill and all that, this actually came together pretty nicely. I really am happy with how it worked. So putting it together the first time was a little trial and error. That thing I have the vertical clamp to is actually the test piece I made when I was kind of designing all this. When I installed it at Gathering Place where they're going to put it all together, I did it all laying down first and then stood it upright, and that worked out better. Getting some of these joints fit required a little bit of tweaking, and so I actually made, you'll see me use at one point here, it's actually seeing the bench there in the background, a piece of plywood sanded to a little bit of a wedge with a belt from that belt sander I used earlier wrapped around it, so I could then run it between the joints and just open them up just a little bit when getting them to go together was tight. Here I am right there using it. Screwing it together was a piece of cake. I drilled all the holes on the shop bot and then just countersunk them and drilled them a little bit into the back piece before I put a couple screws in. The whole structure, once it's screwed together, is really rigid, especially vertically. I mean, if you lay it on its side, it's a little floppy, but, once it's standing upright, it's a strong, strong structure. Here I am lifting it upright. It was really satisfying to see, and crazy just how flat it is. Standing at the end, looking across the front of it, it is a flat structure, which is exactly what you want.